So, hey, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the webinar Leveraging GIS for Smarter Enterprise Asset Management. My name is Doug Henstridge. I've been asked to moderate the event, and I'll host the Q&A sort of in the second half of the session. Before we get started, we would like to run a quick poll of the audience, just to find out kind of where you're from, industries, sectors, etc. You should have the poll pop up. It actually already has. And so if you can go ahead and fill that in, we'll take a look at the results before we get started. The goal today is to have a bit of an interactive event. So as you have questions, please feel free to type them into the Q&A space. You'll see a little icon at the bottom of the screen, which will allow you to do that. And then when we get back to the end, we'll go ahead and kind of go through those and answer those as we need to. If you want information on the speakers and the event, there's a resources tab which will pop up on the side of the screen that'll allow you to kind of peruse, kind of who we are, a little bit about our background and the event itself. We are recording the session, so you'll be able to download it after the event. You should get an email notifying you when it's ready. We'd also like to thank the webinar sponsors, Carasoft and Bad Elf, for making this opportunity available, and Samsara, who's sponsoring this event, and you'll hear from one of their folks a little bit later. Today, we have 4 speakers. Myself, Doug Henstridge, I'm a senior industry consultant with AssetWorks. We also have Timothy Connor, who's the GIS director of Oklahoma County, Oklahoma, as well as his colleague Bill McClung, who's the road supervisor at Oklahoma County, and Dan Collins, who's the sales engineer with Samsara. So just a quick overview, but the idea here is a lot of local governments struggle with managing infrastructure, aging infrastructure with limited resources. They struggle with some inefficient or reactive maintenance practices, and often are looking to centralize data and come up with data-driven systems like GIS or EAM systems to try and get better data for decision-making, minimize cost, improve public service quality. And so, basically today we're going to have different groups, both consultants and users, talk through some of the options that are available, some of the solutions they've found for kind of using GIS to optimize their EAM process and work on kind of GIS-based or GIS-aligned approaches to managing public assets, managing maintenance workflows, managing data collection and data reporting, etc. Right? So as we get ready to start, we can take a look at the poll results, and you'll be able to scroll through and kind of see where folks are from, where we can find them, how many folks are on the session itself. So with that, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Like I said, feel free to post questions in Q&A, and I am going to share my screen, and I'll get started with my session here first. Okay, so I'm going to talk this morning about leveraging GIS for Parks and Rec asset management. So in the last year or so, I've worked with several agencies that are coming from a place, like I said, where they have limited data, they're falling behind on maintenance. And so I'll talk about some of the, the highlight. I know I only have about 15 minutes. I'll talk about some of the opportunities that they made themselves aware of, and some of the problems they were trying to solve. I'll call out a couple of our customers as well through this process. So what I want to do is talk about the importance of actually managing Parks and Rec assets, and also to talk about how GIS can enhance that process. Right. So I'm not going to dive into too much what GIS is. I'm assuming most of the folks on the call know that. But where it kind of comes into play with managing assets in a Parks and Rec space is, one, managing inventory, where things are, proximity of things together, how different features may be aligned. We're talking about, playgrounds, benches, lighting, trees, water features, etc. The other piece here is to use GIS for spatial analysis, maintenance, planning. You can look at problem reports, see where they are geographically, and say even a small or large regional park, and then better manage your resources, better align response so that you can accomplish more work in limited trips out to an area. And also the ability to collect data in a real time, whether that be capturing problems, issues, defects you find, updating work orders, updating attributes in the field that can sync directly back and provide real data to decision makers, maintenance leaders, asset managers, etc. One of the things we talk about benefits of using GIS is, like I said, you have improved asset accuracy. So just looking at the screen capture here from, and this is a customer up Minnesota, Ramsey County, Minnesota, which is the county around St. Paul. So they've been able to capture a lot of different data, and you can actually see this in real time, in real space. So as they go out, they can look at proximity of maybe a public restroom to a parking lot or a picnic area, or they're, like a boat dock or a fishing dock, what have you. So it allows them to see that, to get a better handle on, planning maintenance activities. One of the biggest challenges they face and are solving that is actually scheduling resources and making sure they have crews aligned. And when you can see, what's going on in a park or what's problematic in spatial relationship to itself, you can better direct staff. You can better create daily work schedules in order to address things in a more efficient manner. You don't have guys driving back and forth. That was one of the challenges they had before, is they didn't always have the awareness of the proximate location of things. And in this example, we see a small area, but they have parks and golf courses that are quite spread out. And so being able to better direct maintenance crews or maintenance folks to do work does create some efficiency and minimizes drive time. So there was that piece of it. They also wanted to be able to tie this to decision-making around managing any maintenance or preparation work for event planning, being able to get a handle on knowing when someone may be using, this large feature here is a shelter that actually has a kitchenette attached. So knowing when someone's going to be using that, when they have to go out and make sure it's prepped and open, when they have to go back out and know to, make sure it's in good working order and close it all up. So these are some of the things they want to look at. And also just enhance communication with the public, right? To be able to put closures on a map, or to be able to acknowledge that, for example, going back to the shelter here, that if it's booked, to be able to mark it so that someone could be able to see visually, is this available? Is it not available? Is there a construction project going on in the project or not? Are we resurfacing the parking lot? And can we communicate back to our constituents that, hey, this portion of the parking lot is going to be closed for a week, things like that. So being able to have that data available in a public facing view became very important as well. So a couple of examples I'll call out. I talked about maintaining park through sort of the idea of the location-based inspections and issue reporting. So Ramsey had a workflow where they were out in the park every morning. They had maintenance crews that go out into a park every morning, and they would look to basically empty trash bins, unlock restrooms, do a quick check of play areas for safety. And then one of the advantages of now having a mobile app that has the park map on it is that when they find problems, they can report them right away. They don't even have to look for an asset. They can just pin it and say, hey, at this location, there's this problem, maybe a tree branch is down, or there's some other issue. They can report it right away. That goes immediately into the supervisor's queue, and they can either schedule it if it's not a hazard condition, or they can take care of it and document they took care of it if it is, right? Create a work order in the field, select the asset right away. So that was something that enhanced their ability to kind of keep track of what they were doing by simply being able to manage their work in the field on site. Another example is a Parks and Rec organization we work with up in the Pacific Northwest, where they integrated their 311 solution to the maintenance management system and the asset management system on the back end. So as people reported problems, they could just go in and they could pin it on a map and submit it in. It would pass that over, create a citizen service request with an XY coordinate on it, would allow the maintenance team to go out and respond to that. And with the integration, what was nice is also being able to report back when an issue was resolved, or having contact information to reach out and find out what the issue, maybe they didn't find the issue, or maybe it was graffiti or something of that nature, so that they could take care of that. But that was another advantage of, again, having the mapping. It gave sort of novices in the field that just happen to use the parks the ability to report issues and pin it, so it was easier for the maintenance crews to find these problems right away, simply by looking at where the coordinate was. And another example, and this is going back to Ramsey County again, is they're mapping all their stormwater infrastructure in their parks, because they have MS4 compliance requirements with their various watersheds in their lakes. It's Minnesota, it's the land of 10,000 lakes. They have a lot of lakes attached to park, and they need to monitor winter service, where they put down salt, or where that might be flowing through the drainage system into lakes. They need to be able to do reporting. They need to be able to effectively clean catch basins, monitor silt accumulation, etc. So having the ability to kind of plan that based on the location of their infrastructure and where things are, and understanding also which basins are flowing into which lakes, because in some cases I'll have a park between two lakes and it's not always obvious where the runoff is going. So that's where, again, having the mapping base and having the GIS gave them the ability to kind of keep track of that and report on that in an effective way. So those are just some simple examples of where having the alignment between GIS data, non-GIS data as part of an asset and maintenance program can be extremely helpful. Now, in working with parks, some of the challenges we've seen, and Parks and Rec seems to be an area where this is a bigger challenge than, say, Public Works or traffic engineering, other parts of an organization. They tend to have smaller budgets. They don't have generally their own sources of revenue, so they do sometimes struggle. And the big one is the data collection and maintenance. So when we worked with Ramsey, they had really limited data on their parks. A lot of it was in spreadsheets. A lot of it was just lists that laid things out based on where they were and what section of a park it was in. So as part of this process, we worked with them to basically expand their use of a GIS and Esri environment in GIS, and to define data schemas, data collection, attribution, and a mechanism for collecting the data using basically mobile data gathering tools, and then to be able to import that directly, even building that workflow in as part of their maintenance operations to capture, right? So if they're called out to an area to deal with, say, graffiti or vandalism on picnic tables, they have the ability, while doing that work, to also capture the picnic tables and feed that back into GIS, for example. So that was a big piece there, just getting their data cleaned up, getting their data in a place where a lot of these workflows would work. The other thing is looking at integrating with existing systems, right? So I talked about integrating with a 311 tool for citizen requests, and there's a number of those out in the market. Some of you on the call may use them internally. There's also the integration with event scheduling, event planning, to be able to auto trigger work actions to prep and clean up afterwards. as well as financial system integrations, right, for tracking, labor, timesheets, cost, procurement of materials, whether it be in the summertime for things like herbicides and pesticides and fertilizers, or simply replacement parts, for sinks and restrooms, or paint for buildings and shelters, etc. And then finally is basically making sure your staff is trained and they have the capacity to expand or take on the learning curve of getting up to speed. And what we found that's really interesting is it isn't always a generational divide on the training, the willingness to adopt technology. It can be very varied, but generally looking at keeping these workflows simple, minimizing touching multiple systems, trying to integrate it all into a single solution does actually help. So embedding GIS in the asset management solution rather than having them run in parallel does enhance the staff's ability to work on this, but it also enhances adoption rates and effective use and effective data gathering, right? And that also means building out clear protocols for capturing data, recording work, developing assets, capturing assets, making sure you're getting attribution correct, etc. And some of the things we're seeing in the future, and I kind of alluded to this as well, is that there's a greater integration with mobile apps and sensors that allows for real-time asset monitoring and collection. In an open park space, maybe the mobile app is the way to go. You can take asset information with you. You can take work and maintenance information with you. You can capture data on the spot, whether that's in more of a store forward, so you're capturing it and then synchronizing it later, or real time if you have Wi-Fi or cellular coverage out in the field. Sensors are another interesting one for potentially things like you could have security cameras. You can have in the Ramsey County case, they also run a series of ice arenas. And while the inside of the arena may not be optimal for GIS, it is optimal for putting sensors in place for HVAC, for the ice making systems, to kind of be able to monitor. Are they effective? Are there defects? Are there fault codes triggering? Is there maintenance needs? The other thing we're seeing more of is drone-based inspections, being able to get drones up, looking for maybe especially in a large regional park or along a trail system, are there issues? Is there rather than going out, you can run a drone and you can look for damage to a trail, hazardous tree conditions with trees after storms, debris left, dumping of garbage, things like that. You get those up and be able to incorporate that. And then, as I talked about earlier with the environmental compliance, we're seeing more and more incorporating GIS data into the sustainable planning. How do we map where we want to build things that lead for a longer environmental sustainability? So these are the kind of the trends we're seeing going forward. So with that, I've reached the end of my material. I think that's about 15 minutes. I will basically, I think at this point, hand off to the gentleman from Oklahoma County to talk to theirs. And like I said, as you have Q&A, as you have questions, please feel free to put those in the Q&A comment section, and we will get to those in the second part here. Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. Hi, everybody. My name is Tim Connor with Oklahoma County. I'm the GIS director. And with me, I have Bill McClung. He is the road superintendent for District 3. Today, we're just going to be talking about how we in Oklahoma County decided to go with a countywide GIS approach and how that helps our asset management. So if we take a look at our slides here, we can see we're going to do a little bit of a history of GIS in Oklahoma County, the current uses for GIS, and then we're going to dive a little bit into the future look of what we're planning on doing with GIS, because GIS for us is going to be the pinnacle of what we're trying to go for in Oklahoma County here going forward. History of GIS in Oklahoma County, 1993. The state gave us funding mainly for just the assessor's office to go from a paper format of GIS to a digital format of GIS. They used the first digitation light tables to go from Mylars to DGN using MicroStation. So DGN is kind of like a CAD system. Then in 2020, I was a part of the assessor's office, and we went through a huge major conversion with their parcel data to go to Esri's Parcel Fabric. Also in 2020, but in the spring, that's when Nearmap was adopted full county. This was to set a precedence to have a full county-wide GIS entity present. That kind of helped us get to where we're going in the future with September of 2022, where we finally adopted our Esri Enterprise Agreement, allowing us to reach all elected officials and them to have the ability to use GIS to the full capabilities. And that's where I was able to meet Bill here, and we were able to implement some GIS projects beginning in 2023, maybe end of 2022. And that's where everything kind of kicked off. Just a little bit of a background, just so people might not know what DGNs are. DGNs are the lines in the background, the colorful lines that you see, and then parcel fabric. The reason why the assessor's office wanted to move to this parcel fabric approach is they can see all of their parcels, all of their assets right there at one single program. They were able to see everything that they need to see, not having to open up multiple different files, and they're able to actually look through and able to do all edits right then and there with the branch versioning approach. The assessor's office, this is their first look at what they were looking at for their mapping site. We like to show this just to kind of show how far we've come. This is where you can see all their parcels, all their assets as they want to be able to look at it. And then we can look at the live state today. This site is currently being updated nightly. All of their parcels are updated nightly to where we run a script and we can see all edits done the day before are then published to the public. You can go up and search. Our assessor really likes it whenever you use his name, so we're going to go ahead and type in Stein Lawrence, and it's going to take us right to his lot, his block, and everything in between. So we're able to see some really cool stuff here. But moving along, the county clerk, they were the second to come on board with GIS. They really wanted to see a similar thing to what the assessor's office sees, because they still have to deal with deeds, liens, and everything in between. But they wanted to take their assets, their deeds, and attach it to a parcel. So in collaboration with the assessor's office, if we zoom down and we look at some of these properties right here, if you looked at the first property, you would see that the view property information was at the top. Now we have registered deeds at the top because that's their site. They really want to focus on this. If I were to click this link right here, you would be able to go and pull up all deed information, all liens, everything that has been filed on that property. You would be able to pull it up right then and there and see it at your fingertips. It's a very powerful site. It's a very interesting site. And I know at one point it was the first of its kind to be able to have all this information linked into one spot. You can also see we have tax information as well, and we have ability to just go to anybody that we want to. If you have you can do the same lookups if you know the name, if you have an account number, all that functionality built in just to be able to see what I would determine their asset to be the deeds. The treasurer's office is a little bit different because whenever a county-owned property goes into delinquency, the county then goes to a sale for those properties, which we'll talk about a little bit later. But the sale, if it does not sell, then the county resumes the upkeep for that property. So they have to mow the lawn. They have to make certain that everything is okay on that property. So the treasurer's office was using a big book with paper, and with GIS, we're trying to get rid of paper. So with that, we went to a field maps approach. As you can see, we have a lot of resale inspections. So what this is all the properties that are currently within Oklahoma County's name or ownership. And what you can see is where they're currently working, how they're doing things. The green means that they've gone out there within the last 30 days. Blue means that they still need to go out and look at those properties. We're still kind of in the infancy of this program. So I think we've only been doing this for about 6 months now. The orange and everything else, if we go up here and we look at the legend, we'll be able to see it's part of a house or a yard. Then we have roadways, easements, revisit later. Then we have a couple other things in here as well. So it's an easier way for them to see at a glance what is county owned, and they're able to add properties too. So say a property is added, they can go in, they can look up by the account number, it'll take them to that account, and they're able to add a dot out there for those county owned properties, and they're able to see everything at a glance. This is really good for their what I would consider the treasurer's assets at this point. I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Bill McClung. He's going to take you through what District 3 likes to do with their asset management.
I'm Bill McClung, and I'm the Highway Superintendent for Oklahoma County District 3. We have three different districts in Oklahoma County, and ours is the kind of the northern part of this. And our original objective was to collaborate and modernize our county processes. And kind of our objectives with that were we want to provide transparency of what we're doing, how we're working. We want to keep our constituents informed. We were trying to reduce our redundancy of efforts and improve county efficiencies. And initially, we really wanted to get buy-in from all levels of the District 3 organization. So we recognized the power of the GIS mapping and database opportunities. And so that looked like an avenue to meet our goals. So historically, the county worked with very paper-oriented technology. Once a week, we'd fill out forms and turn them in and then input them into the financial database. And so initially, when we first learned about this or started looking at it, we wanted to build on the basics and introduce some small changes. And but we wanted to make sure that when we were working with this, that we integrated, made it so that the other two districts could easily be added to the database. So kind of our process, this is a map of Oklahoma County. District 3 is the northern part. We operate 235 miles of roads. That's about almost 500 lane miles. So in the beginning, our what we want to do is just capture the signage out there, the stop signs, the speed limit signs, the stop ahead signs, the school signs, things like that. So that in the event of a disaster like a tornado, we knew where those signs were, what they were, what needed to be replaced. We also wanted to capture the type of sign, the MUTCD designation, the reflectivity of those signs. And as we begin this process, we knew that our engineering department had a survey on culverts and bridges. And so that data was available, so it was easy to enter that into our database. And all this improved our inventory control of all these assets. And so as we kind of got into that, we decided that we have all these projects, a yearly project base that we kept up with what we were doing, how we were working, everything from potholes to cleaning out ditches to rebuilding roads. So we wanted to capture that. And so we captured it with iPads. We got iPads for all our foremen and used quick capture and put this information into our database. And that kind of led to us putting work orders in instead of on paper. We put them in using our iPads. So go ahead, Tim. So this is a kind of a project where we started adding projects, and we have another slide here in a minute that shows a live view of this, but we wanted to have project descriptions, before and after photos. This helps with school buses, emergency vehicles, having a detour around these areas that are being worked on. We've kind of got them by current fiscal year, finished project, future fiscal years. We've got our 5-year plan out there. We've also added a citizen reporting application, CPR, citizen problem reporting app. And we additionally took some of this information and we put it into emergency response to capture. We had a lot of fires, and we captured our time and manpower that we used in those fires and on floods so that we could provide that to FEMA for any kind of reimbursement that we might get. And we also put together a Find My Commissioner and Representative, so anybody out there could click on their house or wherever they're at and see who their commissioners are, who their representatives are, with telephone numbers and contact information. And then lastly, one of the things that we've done recently is we've implemented a weather ops option and a mowing ops option. And we're using Samsara, who you'll talk later. We're using their cameras to map where our vehicles are out there in the field, and how much mowing we do. We're using that to bill some of the other entities like Edmund that we bill for mowing their grass for them, their side ditches. And so all this has been incorporated in the last 2 years. So go ahead. So this is an interactive map of the projects, and Tim will click on one of those green ones there. That was a good one right there. Click on that. You can see that whenever somebody clicks on, and this is out there for the public, and so if somebody clicks on it, they can see what the project looked like before we started. Scroll on down. What it looked like during construction, and then there's down here toward the end, there's a picture that I think shows or we have some videos too. So I think there's some videos of the completed project here. So that's the type of thing we're doing. We also have implemented some cameras out here. Click on one of the cameras over here. That's a good one right there. It's our cameras system. So this is not a real-time picture, but it's about a 15-minute delay, so that we can see, for instance, here we have an intersection with stoplights that we can look at. So anyway, that's our real live a live version of what we've got. And then this is our citizen reporter app, District 3. If somebody wants to go in here and report an issue, just go back up there and hit that. Report an issue. It should pull it up there, and it shows all the issues that have been reported. We can click on one of the green ones there. People have the opportunity to put in there are multiple potholes in this area, and then we have the opportunity to put in when it was resolved, how it was resolved, so forth. So there is a place that they can put in pictures also, so that they can send in a picture if they want to of the issue. So, and that helps us keep priorities and keeps everything in one place, so that we know what's been reported and how it's been reported. And additionally, we put QR codes out on some of our signs, mostly on stop signs or stop ahead signs, so people aren't driving 50 miles an hour and trying to take a picture of a QR code. But it does give them a direct link to this citizen reporter app. And then just as a note, down there in the bottom right hand corner of this slide, there's a picture. We were out cutting fire lines during these big fires that were in northeastern Oklahoma County, and one of the things we use to track our vehicles. So future is kind of limitless. There's some of the project we're working on is using the Samsara cameras and GPS. Using them for fleet maintenance. Of course, that improves our driving safety because it categorizes, things like speeding or quick stops or things like that. So, and then we're using also their system for electronic DVIR. So instead of having paper DVIRs for our drivers, they can fill out their equipment every morning to see what kind of condition it's in, so that that we have that all electronically. And as I mentioned, we're looking at, or we just bought a program called Novotics. That's an asset management program that includes work orders and cost analysis. And so we're hoping to use some of the Samsara camera information and using AI to inspect the roads and prioritize our roads so that we know where we need to be spending our money and how we need to be spending our money. So we are using GIS to help highlight, publicize how technology is increasing our county efficiency. And basically, it's transformed us from day-to-day work from paper to digital. So I'll turn it back to Tim to finish this, but this is a slide, just a few things that we're using, the citizen reporter down there, commissioner projects, and just a picture of some of the work we're doing out there.
So where are we going? What is next for Oklahoma County? So as I mentioned earlier, there's the tax resale map that we're really wanting to work on. And after 4 years of unpaid property taxes, the county will then resell at auction. But what we're trying to do is that sale takes place in the second Monday in every June. And there's a list of properties that are published not only to a website, but also in the paper of Oklahoma for Oklahoma. And so what we're trying to do is we're really trying to provide a way for the public to view these properties differently. And so what you'll see whenever you see that paper list is a legal description and just a property ID number. So what we want to do is we want to be able to take these and actually update them live as they're being sold. You'll be able to see a dot out on the map that represents a property that's on this sale. So hopefully people will go check it before the sale actually happens. So if they want to go pay their property taxes, they can pay everything off and it won't be in the sale. Or while it's being sold at auction, these will be coming off the script runs about every 5 minutes. And so all these properties will be taken off live as they're sold at a resale. Some of the other future projects is the personal property tax that we just kind of talked about, but this one's more field maps related to where we can actually see some things out in the field to where we can update that map. The other thing that we really want to do is which we have started doing in District 1 and we're really working hard to do in District 2 is extend GIS use to these districts to help them be able to do some of the things that District 3 is currently doing. And I think we're moving in a positive direction in both of these, but we include all of our Esri projects, but as well, we want to try and get Novotics in there. We're still in the infancy stage with Novotics, but it's going to be something that I think will be very beneficial. Another thing that we're trying to do is adopt Survey 123 for all county uses. So there's a couple surveys within Oklahoma County that we have that we're going to try and get Survey 123 to be the local use of all surveys, so we can actually have everything automated and less people, less eyes, less things have to be used and less databases have to be created. That way it's all in one single space. Health and safety is one, and then facilities maintenance is the other that we're really trying to work with on these. Use field maps to update assessment data in the field. That's something that's actually coming hopefully later this month. We're in the testing phases currently, but what we're able to do is we're able to use an iPad with field maps, and we're able to update the assessment data that they have to update daily out in the field, because in Oklahoma, you have to assess each property. You have to go and physically step on that property once every 4 years. So they're able to go out there, take their photos, do everything they need to do, and they're hopefully going to be able to do that just right there at their fingertips with these field maps. Another thing is create a site to display dispatch calls for the sheriff. We really want to use this data to be able to help local agencies, not only just have like a collaboration to where we're able to see all calls for service for Oklahoma County, not just our jurisdiction and not just Oklahoma City's jurisdiction or Edmond's jurisdiction. We're trying to get all of them to link in and actually collaborate, and we're able to see everything. Another thing that we want to use for the sheriff's office that I didn't mention here is some using field maps for the Able Commission and doing all of those wonderful searches that they have to do to make certain everything is in compliance there. And the biggest thing that we really want to do is adopt Novotics for most asset management in Oklahoma. This will be a really big step for us, and it would really help us out, and I think it would make the future very bright and very as my counterpart said, transparent. It's going to help us be transparent for our taxpayers. But here's a couple links that we have. This is for like Oklahoma County, or if you want to see District 3 or any of the other stuff that we've kind of showed off. We didn't really touch on 5-Mile Commissioner, but if you want to go look at that, there it is right there. Other than that, I think we're going to have to pass it on probably to Daniel.
Oh, perfect. Thank you, Bill and Tim, for the intro over here. Go ahead and start sharing my screen. So, hello, everyone. I'm Daniel Collins. I'm a sales engineer with Samsara. The topic and what I'll be discussing about today is empowering smarter asset management with the use of live data actually in your systems. So for those that maybe are not familiar with Samsara, who have not heard of us before, we're a mission-driven organization, and we partner with over 20,000 customers globally to help them improve their operations, specifically with our mission statement being to improve the safety, efficiency, and sustainability that power our global economy. And so how do we do this, right? In terms of asset management, assets come in all shapes and sizes. This can be with vehicles, equipment, generators, tools, anything that's needed for the job to either, in the case in what Bill and Tim were talking about, repair potholes, but also bring it back into your drivers as well, right? Drivers are probably the most important asset that we have, or the field workers being the most important asset that we have. So we empower them to conduct workflows to actually report on site and what is happening, as well as bring in overall safety event detections, right? Ensuring that these assets get home safely at the end of the day to their families, and that any of the vehicles and equipment are in top operating shape to continue on working for the next day. And so, how does Samsara do this, right? It is all in all an open platform to connect your people and systems, right? This is bringing in the front office or the frontline workers and connecting them ultimately into the back office administrators to be able to effectively deploy systems or actions, based off of whatever the priority is for the organization that we're serving. This is powered in through vehicle telematics, in giving real-time location back for live information on those assets. Same thing with smart trailers and equipment, right? It's not just limited only to vehicles, but any sort of actual deployed asset that can be put out in the field. We help connect those dots and map it out so that you can understand what's going on with your operation in real time. Giving enhanced visibility on that, it does bring in the ability for video-based safety in operations to either A, see what's going on for safe driving behaviors within your fleet, or B, giving eyes out on the road. What is happening with our real-time weather conditions, what is happening with the street conditions out there, and being able to pull that footage for your own uses. Tying it all in on the driver side of it, right? It also operates with connected workflows. So having the ability for them to fill out any forms, inspections, or needs based off of assets or equipment, or assets out in the field, and reporting on that to note any issues in what is happening. And same thing with tying it back into training. So being able to use one single system for training of your field operations, and then deploying them effectively. Samsara maps all this out in a single platform, but it is also an open system, right? So being able to integrate into your GIS providers is one main functionality that we do have. So that way, the assets that are mapped within Samsara can then be brought over to the rest of your assets out there, from your roads, your streets, your signs, your buildings, right? Being able to effectively deploy out there and work smarter to automate some of your operation. There are some, I guess, main challenges that we do see in asset management for the operations that we help serve. And these tend to be the common four, right? One of them, in terms of saving money, driving down operational costs for fuel. Fuel is a big expense that any customer with a deployed operation must expend on. So how can we help limit idling, or make more efficient routing decisions for dispatch? Same thing with maintenance, right? Reducing the downtime in maintenance, getting insights into knowing what's going on with these vehicles out in the field so you can respond proactively instead of reactively, when a vehicle may come into the shop for its scheduled preventative maintenance portion. Theft and loss is another one, right? The big thing in this is assets are getting more and more expensive these days, and the cost to replace them is also adding up on that front. So being able to identify when something does go missing or potentially stolen, as well as, even just tracking these items to make sure that they're in the proper location to get deployed as they go around. And the last item, and where we really do see a lot of challenges within asset management, is improving utilization, right? Understanding how each item is used and where they need to be, and the potential advantage of being able to sell off assets that aren't being used to streamline your operation on that front. So diving a little bit deeper into those kind of main points within there. First, specifically within location tracking, right? Being able to prevent theft and improved asset recovery in real time. So not only this technology does unlock the ability to have visibility into your fleet, but also protect these assets, whether that be in through triggering alerts to get notified when maybe a trailer is mispatched with mispaired with the tractor, or it's actually getting stolen and it's leaving at the middle of the night, right? Being able to bring this visibility with our solution helps just make sure you're prepared to respond as incidents occur. Preventative maintenance in reducing that unplanned downtime for visibility, right? As check engine lights occur, as vehicles do wear up on engine hours or mileage, right? Having a visibility into that when especially you're operating in deployed spaces or have multiple sites can allow you to be more proactive about it. Hey, what is our troubleshooting plan when this asset does come into the shop? Can we message out to our frontline worker to have them bring it down when something serious is occurring with the vehicle? Just powering overall data-driven decisions on that front. And listening to our customers too, we do hear that a common pain point is the amount of time spent searching for tools, which ultimately results in job site inefficiencies. We do hear customers reporting up to 30% of their tools being lost due to either theft or just general damage, or potentially leaving something at a job site. In working with our customers, we do hear some of them have high value assets up to $30,000, if not more. And when you combine that with 30% of assets being stolen or damaged, it does result in millions of dollars needing to be paid to ultimately replace those assets. And even on the inefficiency side, right? When something isn't deployed to, say, fix that pothole or work on the roads, right? It can add additional downtime for your operators and waiting there for the tools to ultimately arrive when they need them. With a lot of these items, right, we are able to disrupt that job downtime, so that way you don't need to go ahead and search for where these items are, or when they do get stolen, you have some awareness to them. But also even just simplifying your inventory management and audits. Hey, we need to figure out what we have and where they are. Now you have a tool that can provide that information to help streamline that operation for you. And the last bit of kind of these main pain points is utilization reporting, right? Understanding how to actually maximize the use for each item, highlighting the areas maybe that have been dormant. This thing hasn't been used in a year and a half. Maybe that could be a prime option to sell off and bring money back into the city, county, or entity you're working with. We work to help identify these things for you and make it overall a better experience. And so one of the items even that Bill and Tim had referred to was leveraging Samsara and Esri for more operational awareness, right? bringing in these real-time, feeds as a source of truth and pairing that with Esri mapping as well as their spatial analytics can result in being able to charge back to different entities for the work that you're doing for them, or even just understanding your operational situation for being complete in the work that you're actually required to do. Another example of this would be with a reference customer being the city of Syracuse, right? They also leverage Samsara and Esri for their wintertime snow operations. So that way they can give a public-facing map to all of their citizens to understand when was the last time my street was plowed, when was the material spread on this, are these items safe to drive, or has it not been taken care of yet, and maybe I shouldn't go out on the road. These are the items that we're working to incorporate with Oklahoma County as well, and map it out so that way ultimately the citizens get the information they need before making a decision out on the road, or providing that information just back to the cities and counties so that they can analyze it effectively. Now, one other example of this too is working with the city of Atlanta at the airport to help with airfield maintenance out there, especially with more news stories these days of airline incidents and accidents. One of the areas that Atlanta had focused on was mitigating bird strikes. Through the FAA, they actually have requirements to ensure that all of the land around the runways have short grass, so that it's not a habitat for birds to ultimately reside in and potentially cause damage to any of the aircraft in the area. So Samsara partnered with Atlanta as well as Esri to provide real-time visibility into their mowing operations, giving reports back on where did we track or where did we mow, when did we mow these areas, what is our level of completeness. That way they could stay on top of it and eliminate a lot of the paper processes that were done prior and what they needed to provide back over to the FAA. So I appreciate the time here. As a subtle nudge, please do ask any questions in the Q&A chat, whether that be for myself, Doug, Bill, or Tim. And now I'll actually bring them back in so we can all have that conversation together for the Q&A.
Hey, everybody. So I think with the kind of more formalized part of the session concluded, we'll go into some Q&A. I'm not seeing any questions submitted, but what I will do is, since I noted down a couple, I'm going to ask our the folks, our friends here from Oklahoma County, a couple of questions that I noted for them. The one is, as they've talked about how they've built out their system, how are they looking to incorporate pavement management into the process? Tracking pavement quality, looking at maybe planning treatments, incorporating that back into their. And I know they're just in the process of implementing a EAM solution, but what are their plans? What are they looking at for doing that?
I'll take that answer. When we first started this process, we have an engineering department that every 2 years contracts a company to go out and ride the roads and do pavement inspections, and gives us a list of projects or roads and the condition the roads are, a PMI index. And so I don't know exactly what the cost was, but it's pretty high cost because they had a trailed car. It was a 20-mile-an-hour vehicle doing the inspections, and so it's pretty costly to have that done. And we have that information. We haven't incorporated it yet because we're going to put it into our Novotics program when we get up and running with that. However, just recently we were looking at some of the information out in the ESRI conference, the user conference out in San Diego. And there are a lot of companies that can provide that less costly, more often, a lot of it using AI. And we've talked to Samsara about using some of the camera footage that we get every day driving the roads to analyze and categorize those roads so that we get a better idea of where we need to spend our money and what are the worst places and how to go about it.
Okay.
So,
Okay. We do have a question that just popped in. Do you issue any right-of-way permits? And if so, how do you use your GIS to manage those?
the only right-of-way permits that we have in the county right now are for tin horns or culverts. When somebody wants to add a culvert into a roadway, they have to go and get a permit for that, and they pay a fee for that. We also we have a permitting department that handles any subdivisions or new builds or things like that. So, but as far as right of way, that is basically what we have in those terms. Now, the county does own 66 feet on each side of center line that we're responsible for maintaining. So a lot of culverts that cross the road or bridges, we're responsible for all those. And so anything outside of that's private.
Okay. So, and then there is also another question for you guys. So it looks like you guys have been are really popular today. How it says, how many asset management systems did you look at before you decided on Novatics, and what was your criteria?
Yeah, so with us, we went out to the Esri UC a year ago, and that's where we saw a multitude of different asset management systems. We're currently in Tyler Munis for some of it, and then that's our kind of like our ERP. And then we looked at them, we looked at everything, a couple others, but really whenever it came down to it, Novatics for everything that it offered and everything that it had. It has that live connection for us for at least for my side of things for GIS. I really like that live connection that it boasts. So it just kind of just did everything that we needed, at least from the GIS side and from also the district side for everything that it can do. And it also has asset management, but it also has a workflow capability built in as well. And some other things that we are also looking to possibly deploy in the future that really just fit Oklahoma County.
I'll add to that a little bit. We also looked at cost. and that was a biggie. So we felt that we try to look at cost effectiveness, and we felt like for the money that was the best product that we could get.
Okay. And a final question, I think it's for you guys too. It is, do you have utility permitting in GIS?
I'll answer that. We don't right now, but we looked at some things at the user conference this year out in San Diego, and that's a big one that we want. That's all handled out of our engineering group, and we're trying to rope them into using some of this information, not only utility permitting, but subdivision permitting and those type of things. We'd like to get them involved in this because that's certainly a real possibility. But we need to get them involved in it.
Okay. So, and then I don't have any more in the queue, but I did note down a couple that I'll ask you guys too. And that is, when setting this up, and I know well, maybe the first question, and I'll combine these actually. How long did it take to get from where you were to where you are today? That's part one, and part two. And what were your biggest challenges in doing that?
I'll start it off for GIS. For GIS, we started in 2022, and we were probably comfortably live in everything. And I know Bill likes to say we like to start off small. We got signs going first, then we got into field mapping, and I probably pushed them a little bit faster than they wanted to go. but I think we were pretty comfortable in that within about a 6 month time frame. We were able to get a lot pushed out, and we're still building on it too. We're nowhere near done where we want to be, but it is something that, you know, we had to get that cultural change. We had to get everybody to buy into this, not just District 3, but all elected officials. We had to get this enterprise agreement signed to where not only I was a little bit of background of myself. I was with the assessor's office actually in 2022 when everything was signed. So I was working solely for the assessor's office. Since then, we have moved to MIS, and I have another coworker with me as well, a GIS analyst. And so it's just two of us running the entire county GIS. So we were both in the assessor's office, kind of it was very helpful for Larry Stein to be able to, you know, loan us out, but at the same time, we had to do two jobs. We had to do GIS work for the county, and we also had to do our day-to-day jobs in the assessor's office. So it just kind of came to a breaking point where Bill's like, I need him, and the clerk's like, I need someone to help me, and everybody else, you know, jumped on board to where we finally split out, and we're just solely doing GIS work now.
And following that up, I think that the biggest challenge we had was the cultural change that we had to go through, because anybody that's been in a situation like this, they always hear that's the way we've always done it and it works. And but it's maybe not the most efficient way to do it. And so we had to overcome the cultural change of going from paper to digital. And some of our older employees or older elected officials, you know, they didn't want to cross that bridge. And so we basically had to just make that cultural change. And now I think that we've got a lot of acceptance, at least in our district, and we got support from Miles Davison, our county commissioner. And so we're moving it forward. And I think in some respects, there's still a little resistance, but we have 10, at least 10 iPads deployed to our employees. One of the things people said was, well, your guys can't operate the iPads, and they're going to lose them and they're going to break them and they're expensive. And what we found is we've had them out there for 2 years now and we haven't lost one yet. So, you know, I think that's a big thing. Getting buy-in from, you know, our public officials too to support it is big. And then I think the other thing that's been a little reluctance on some people's part was the cost involved, but I think the cost savings has been multiplied significantly over the cost it took to employ some of this stuff.
Okay. Yeah, and another one just popped in here too, asking you, what do you use Munis for? And do Novotics and Munis work for different areas?
So Munis is the ERP, so that's kind of what they use for finance and for asset management in Oklahoma County. It didn't do everything that the districts wanted to do, like what is it called? Your assets that you don't keep track of. Oh gosh, I'm blanking on the word. Like your asphalt and everything that you want to keep track of.
Well, yeah, I mean,
I can't
it
think.
doesn't take, doesn't
Consumable assets. So it doesn't keep those into certain areas. So really, Novotics just kind of is GIS at its core, whereas Munis is it has a GIS capability, but there's only so much you can do with it. So for us, it just was a deal where Novotics kind of helps us out to be able to keep track of that pavement, kind of like what they were talking about earlier, pavement management, and also just the ability just to see everything digitally and have that live connection to GIS.
I think the other thing is it's not as user friendly as we'd like it to be for, you know, incorporating with some of our employees, you know, user friendly. You see phones or you see computers these days. A lot of the programs are so user friendly, and Munis is not quite as user friendly for people inputting work orders and things like that.
And I have one question for you guys as well. So, I mean, one thing that you've mentioned along the way is the transformation from paper process to digital. I guess from an evaluation for Oklahoma County, how far do you feel like you are in that process, and maybe still what is next of what you're looking to attack within that?
I think, Daniel, I think that we're probably maybe 25% into that process of eliminating paper. We still have some paper out there. My vision is that we have a dashboard that has, you know, the vehicle information, the asset information, and the consumable information, all that out there. And one of the things about Novotics is for different people, different workers, different managers, you can drill that down just so that they look at their areas, and you can also look at the big picture of things, and we can have those dashboards that are integrated with Samsara and Novotics and any other programs that we want to incorporate into that, so that we have kind of a universal piece of paper that we can look at every day and hit the high points.
Yeah, and for the GIS side of things, like just for the countywide, there's so much that we can do with GIS and with getting rid of paper, moving digitally. For us, we're really trying to do the survey 123s that we kind of mentioned, trying to get people to use those rather than maybe even using just paper. In my background, from my background at least with the assessor's office, there's so much that they use paper for, and it goes from one desk to another desk, from one desk to another desk. And I think that we can make that digital with Novotics, with the workflow management that they have, and just being able to set up those tasks. So there's a lot of that can go through, and it will be not only just one department, it can go to multiple different elected official departments, the abilities with that, because the assessor's office has to talk to the treasurer's office. District 1 might have to talk to District 3. You never know really what everything that's going on here. So
And it looks like we did get another question in the chat. Um, let's see. How do you, this is probably for you two again as well. How do you coordinate project conflicts with other agencies? And are you leveraging GIS to proactively notify or visualize upcoming projects to avoid scheduling clashes?
So some of the ways that we are using to coordinate projects is Survey 123. So the Citizen Reporter app that we have is the ability to notify not only District 3 if it's in their area, it notifies also the other districts as well that someone is trying to contact them. Once we get more buy-in GIS wise, they'll be able to go in there and edit all those things just like District 3 is able to. But with this one specifically, it's able to kind of say, hey, there's a pothole in this area, or it's kind of how we're bridging the gap using that type of program. And I don't know if Bill has anything.
Well, one of the things that Novotics is going to help us with, I think you're talking about conflicts with other agencies or notifying other agencies, is the 811 notification on all our utilities. We have to update those periodically, and whenever you're going and digging or excavating or whatever, you have to have a location of all the fiber optics or the gas lines or the water lines and things like that. So that will help us proactively notify those agencies that we're going to be working in an area, and that will help us quite a bit. The project map that we were showing you earlier, you know, that kind of shows us where all those projects are, so that, you know, we try to prioritize based on needs and based on traffic and things like that. So we use that map pretty regularly to see where the projects are that we're working on, and who's working on them and things like that. So we do use that. I think there's still some room for optimization of some of that, but we are utilizing it where we can.
definitely.
And if you don't mind, I'd like to follow on with that and share the experience of one of our customers in that area where they use a combination of the GIS integrated with their asset work management solution, which happens to be our software. But what they do is they're able to kind of bundle multiple assets. So then I'll give you the example of a service line break, so water utility, where they can respond to that, but then build what they call a project. So they can build a little project out of it and track, the sidewalk, the roadway, the service line itself, the meter, and even if there's any type of city-owned landscaping like a street tree, that can all be incorporated into a project, and the different groups that are responsible for those things, parks that deals with the street trees, and streets maintenance that takes care of the sidewalks and the road pavement, and then water that takes care of the line and the meter and the connection to the main and all of that, and build that into basically a project that they can then visualize both in its component pieces and the individual work orders, but all bundled together so they can actually visualize this project on a map as well, and then use that to basically manage the flow, like who goes out and digs it up, who fixes the line, who does the preliminary restoration of the road, who goes out and finishes that. So they know when all the work is done and who's going in what order. So I think there's a lot of value in tying not just GIS, but tying GIS to the asset and the work management tool. And as you plan work, to be able to look for those conflicts, so you can avoid the situation of we're the street department and we resurface a neighborhood street, and only to have a month later have the water utility come and dig up the line because they were planning on doing something, not because it broke and they had to do something. So I think, we've seen that. We have a couple of customers that try and put those workflows in place, utilizing both the spatial data as well as the asset data and work management workflows to kind of build a solution for exactly that problem.
I think you're exactly right, Doug. I think, instead of having one group go out and do one thing and another group go out and do another thing in the same area, this asset management concept is really important because that way, if you have, say, you got a road that is an asset and you have a problem with a culvert, or you have a problem with potholes, or you have a problem with a bridge or whatever, you can incorporate all that into one piece so that you don't have different groups or different people going out and working on the same thing and then turn around and have the same problem again, or a problem in the same area. So
yeah,
I think exactly what you're talking is real important, and I don't think we're quite there yet, but we're working on it.
Definitely, and we're also really, really working hard to work with other entities as well. So if any other city wants to collaborate with us, since we have so many cities that are within Oklahoma County, we're willing to share any data that we have and vice versa. So we've reached out multiple times, and I think that eventually something like collaboration and asset management will work in the same way.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So I don't see any more questions in the queue. So I think we're kind of close to wrapping up as well. I maybe offer the opportunity for everyone to take a minute or two with some final remarks before we wrap up.
Thank you all for coming today. If you have any questions, I'm certain you can get a hold of us somehow in the information above.
Yep, echoing that statement as well. For any additional resources, there are some items linked in the resources in the Zoom, and feel free to reach out to myself as well.
All right, thanks. And I would say the same. Thank you for attending today. I really appreciate it. We do have links in the resources section, and feel free to reach out with any questions. And even if we need to facilitate conversation with one of our customers, we could probably make that happen too if you're curious about their experience. So, okay. Well, then with that, I wish everyone else a good rest of the day, and I think we'll wrap it up a few minutes early here.